The Pope's Canadian visit is set to kick off over the weekend on Sunday, set for stops in Edmonton, Quebec City and Iqualuit. The mission here to further tackle the ramifications of the Catholic Church's role in residential schools.
So Father John Meehan is a Jesuit priest and historian, also director of the Bill Graham Center for Contemporary International History at Trinity College University of Toronto. Good morning, Father Meehan. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with... Thank you. Let's start with the significance of this visit. Why is it so important for the Pope to come to Canada to apologize on Indigenous land?
I think it's very important that this is happening. You may recall this is one of the calls to action from the TRC Commission report, call number 58, that the Pope would come to apologize on Canadian soil. It's a few years, it's taken a few years, but I think it's very important that he do so because he was asked to do so by Indigenous people and because it's simply the right thing to do.
So there are calls, Father, for the Church to offer reparations, more than just an apology, turn over these documents. Is that likely to come during this visit?
I think so. A lot of the churches and religious communities that ran the schools have turned over the documents. My own religious order, the Jesuits, has done so. And the Oblates, I know, are well along that path as well. So I think we'll see more of that. An apology is very important, but don't forget, and I tell a lot of the non-Indigenous colleagues this, that it's just the first step. When you've hurt somebody, the first thing you do is recognize you've hurt that person, and it will have to be followed by clear and specific actions.
Absolutely. We've heard that, what is an apology? That Indigenous leaders, residential school survivors, they want concrete action, and hopefully this will be a stepping stone for it. Ever since we saw the Pope apologize in Rome back in April, there's been kind of an energy shift. Can you talk about what people will be watching for when the Pope makes several of his speeches and he conducts Mass? What will they be looking for?
It's a huge historic move. I'll be watching. I'll be there in Edmonton with some Indigenous people I've worked with. There'll be some very important events to pay attention to. The Pope is calling this a penitential pilgrimage. So he arrives in Edmonton on Sunday, and on the next day, Monday, he'll be doing a formal apology at Musqueam, which is the site of a former residential school. He'll be doing that to residential school survivors. This visit is not to Canada, it's to Indigenous people. And I think that's very important. So that's something to look out for. The words that he uses, the way he speaks to them, he'll speak directly to Indigenous people themselves. Hurt has been done by the Church, and so it's very important for the Pope, who represents the Catholic Church, to apologize not just on his own behalf, but really on behalf of all Catholics, because we were all, in a sense, part of this system that tried to assimilate Indigenous people.
And so speaking of that, Father, how could this papal visit potentially change the tone and leadership within the Catholic Church of Canada?
I think it already is doing so. One thing I've noticed, and I'm in Toronto now after working with Indigenous people in Regina and Sudbury, is there's been a change in the Catholic Church at the grassroots level, especially since the discovery of unmarked graves at Kamloops and Cowessess. Just in Toronto alone, I can think of half a dozen parishes that have listening circles where ordinary Catholics are angry. They're angry not just at their church leadership, but at themselves for not learning this history that we never learned. And so there's a hunger to learn the truth about the history, because it's not just up to the Pope. I think it's up to every single Catholic, every single Christian, all Canadians indeed, to take concrete action to follow up. The Pope provides leadership, but I'm very interested in seeing what the follow-up actions might look like.
Okay, Father John Meehan, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.